Shalom to the royal family of Israel. I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yahweh and His mighty Son, Yahweh Ba'ashem HaMashiach Yahushua. I want to give a salutation to all the mighty men, mighty women, and mighty children of Israel. And today's lesson is the truth about cults.
So today, we're going to be discussing cults. Most oftentimes, Israelites are accused by their family of being in a cult. Most of you people don't even know what a cult is. You can't even spell the word cult. But today, we're going to be giving you the truth about cults. Let's get a definition of what a cult is.
A system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. A misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing.
So we got three different definitions according to Esau on what a cult is. So here we see a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. You have some people who might worship nature. They may worship a person. It says a relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. Here's what strange is. You ready, folks? Anything that's outside of the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God. Anything outside of the King James Version Bible. A misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. That's you people who love football and basketball. You love the players, you worship them. But let's get a little deeper about cults.
Cult. In modern English, a cult is a social group that is defined by its unusual religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs, or its common interest in a particular personality, object, or goal.
So once again, we're seeing words like unusual religious. You have some cults that believe in free love, sex cults, or taking mind-controlling drugs, or even killing people. But let's break down what classifies something as a cult. A cult is a small group or movement held together by a shared commitment to a charismatic leader or ideology. It has a belief system that has the answers to all of life's questions and offers a special solution to be gained only by following the leader's rules. Now, we're going to examine some cults like this where everyone worshiped the leader. The leader's the one who had all the answers. We're going to see the difference between a church and a cult. A church is a conventional religious organization. A sect, which a lot of times people like to identify Islam as, or the various different groups of Islam. A sect is a deviant religious organization with traditional beliefs and practices. A cult is a deviant religious organization with novel beliefs and practices. A cult is described as a system or group of people who practice excessive devotion to a figure, object, or belief system. Now understand this thing about these belief systems, they're very corrupted, folks. An idea where you can kill someone, use drugs, be an adulterer, have a lot of sex with people. That's deviant behavior, deviant ideology. Anything outside of the Bible, anything outside of the will of the Most High God. This is what we're looking at. Now, what does a cult worship? Religion actually defines religion as cult. Being an Israelite has nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with your nationality, folks. Not religion, your nationality. Cultic worship is social, which means more than a group or worshiping the same deity in the same place at the same time. A cult is structured with a division of sacred personnel, which are priests, who lead and perform the cultic ceremonies for the people. We all worship the Most High God, just like you.
All descendants of slaves from the west coast of Africa that are scattered all over the world are the children of Israel. American blacks, Negroes are from the tribe of Judah. You must obey God's laws.
Who were scattered all over the world through Jacob. Slavery. And I don't care what country you're in, by the way. You're an Israelite. If you're a Negro, now let's get some examples of some American cults.
Number 10, HoNo Hana, or Yorakobi Kazoku Noa. That's quite a mouthful, as well as a very dangerous Japanese cult. The 30,000-member Japanese organization was led by Hogen Fukunaga, who claims he can see someone's past and future by looking at their feet, according to the Japan Times. Presiding Judge Tsutomu Ayagi accused Fukunaga of exploiting people's fears. He used shocking words to fuel their concern, falsely claimed their diseases can be cured through training in his cult, and swindled exorbitant amounts of money from them, the judge said, as he denounced Fukunaga's acts as a vicious crime. Fukunaga extorted $1.3 million from 30 followers by diagnosing them with serious illnesses with his fake foot therapy. Thankfully, this quack was sentenced to 12 years in prison. He should be out by now, but we couldn't find out if he has a new line of work.
HoNo Hana Sanpogyo was a Japanese new religious movement referred to as the foot reading cult. In the media, its founder, Fukunaga Hogen, claimed to have divine authority and the ability to diagnose physical illness by studying the soles of an individual's feet.
And see, here's the thing. The problem is that people like this, or just like that was stated before in the Christian churches, it's not just them. You guys are so greedy for money. This is a cult. What does the Lord say about charging for his word? Read the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 18. Read.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 18. What is my reward then? Verily that, when I preach the gospel, I may make the gospel of Christ without charge, that I abuse not my power in the gospel.
And so no one should be collecting money and telling people they have to do it in order for them to get inside the kingdom. HoNo Hana, he violated God's law. And understand, even you heathens have to obey God's laws, because you're going to be doing it in captivity. You'll be doing it when you're our slaves. And let's find out what you violated. Let me get the book of Mark, chapter 10, verse 19. Read.
The book of Mark, chapter 10, verse 19. Thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Defraud not. Honor thy father and thy mother.
And right here, what did this HoNo group do? Stole. Do not steal. For you people who like to say the Israelites, you guys are some type of a cult, because these are the same commandments that you're supposed to be following too. Also, it's a crime in every single province, every city, every state, and every country to steal. Understand this thing about the Most High's doctrine. He doesn't have these weird doctrines. I'm going to look at your feet to see what's up with you. No. The Lord's doctrine is pure. And we can get that in the book of Job, chapter 11, verse 4. Read.
The book of Job, chapter 11, verse 4. For thou hast said, my doctrine is pure, and I am clean in thine eye.
The Lord's doctrine is pure. He's not looking at your feet to see what's up with you. Those are lies, and you need to be aware of that. Look at the book of Job, chapter 6. This is the precept here. The book of Job, chapter 6, verse 30. Is there iniquity in my tongue? Are there sins in my speech, in my lips, coming out of my lips? That's what that says. Cannot my taste discern perverse things? You see, folks, we're called upon to use discernment and wisdom to see if it's of the Lord or of Satan. You see, the Lord here in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 2 says, for I give you good doctrine. Forsake ye not my law. You see, we obey the law, statutes, and commandments.
Number 9, Church of Euthanasia. From spinning records to cult leader, the Church of Euthanasia was founded in 1992 by software developer and DJ Chris Korda. Korda was inspired by Dadaism, an artistic movement that emerged during World War I with a mission to destroy the hoaxes of reason and to discover an unreasoned order. In 1995, Korda created a suicide assistance hotline to help Americans kill themselves. The number was displayed on a billboard along with the message, "Helping you every step of the way." Thousands helped. How about you? The idea was to play callers' pre-recorded instructions on how to end their life. Thankfully, the phone company wouldn't activate the line. During the 1990s, the church even appeared on The Jerry Springer Show. The church still has a website, though it's hard to tell how dangerous the organization is today, and Korda seems to have moved on to 3D printing.
Euthanasia, also known as COE, is a religious organization founded by Chris Korda and Robert Kimberg, Pastor Kim, in Boston, Massachusetts, in 1992. As stated on its website, it is a non-profit educational foundation devoted to restoring balance between humans and the remaining species on Earth. Its members affirm that this can only turn into a reality by a mass voluntary population reduction, which will depend on a leap in human consciousness to species awareness. According to Korda, it is likely that this church is the world's only anti-human religion. Its most popular slogan is "Save the planet, kill yourself." And its founding ideology is set in one commandment, "Thou shalt not procreate." And its four main pillars: suicide, abortion, cannibalism of the already dead, and sodomy, any sexual act not intended for procreation. The church stresses population reduction by voluntary means only, and rejects murder and eugenics as a means of achieving. I don't even know why people call us a cult. This is just what the average democratic Christian believes. Chris Korda, he is a sick sodomite, so that's why he probably was pro-sodomy. And abortion, that's murder. Suicide, that's also murder. That's against the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." And you see, in Christianity, they're Christian sects, Latter-day Saints, and also in Catholicism, they push birth control and abortion, even though it says in the word, "Thou shalt not kill." If you get an abortion, that's murder. If you commit suicide, that's murder. You're killing yourself. I don't know why people think that it's okay. Cannibalism, you can't eat people. I'm sorry. They're in, like, especially if they're like already dead meat. Like, you know, this is disgusting, but society actually believes like 3 out of the 4 main pillars, and they're probably going to get cannibalism will probably be legalized at some point. So honestly, this shouldn't be called a cult.
So you see, and guess what? The Lord said we're supposed to watch out for them. And we're going to get that in the book of Romans chapter 16, verse 17.
The book of Romans chapter 16, verse 17. "Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause division and offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them."
It says, and avoid them, not join them. Like, were you guys literally digging up dead bodies and eating them? How do you live past that? You called yourself a church of euthanasia. That's killing. You can't kill yourself, and you can't kill nobody else. The book of Mark right here, chapter 10, verse 19. "Thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Defraud not. Honor thy father and mother." So you guys need to watch out for these false prophets, and that also includes these Christian churches that teach you that you don't have to obey the laws, statutes, and commandments. These are all, everything we're reading, the laws out of the Bible. Matthew chapter 7, verse 15. "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves." This is what Yahawashah said. They come in sheep's clothing, looking smooth and debonair with their expensive Italian suits, driving their big fancy cars, talking real smooth, and telling you, you don't have to obey the law. You don't have to keep the law. Well, folk, a sin is a transgression of the law. These are laws right here. Right here, this law right here that said, and avoid them. That's a law. That's a commandment. Thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. What these guys are doing, we're against the commandments. The Lord also warns us in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressively that in the latter times, it's talking about now, and it's talking about you Christian church. All of you Christians, y'all need to come out of it. Look at what the Bible's saying about you. That in latter times, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits. Come on, let's commit abortion. Come on, let's have illicit sex. Let's do crazy drugs, or worse even, let's not obey God's laws, statutes, and commandments. Those are seducing spirits and doctrines of devil. If it's not of God, it's of Satan. Speaking lies in hypocrisy, meaning that they say one thing and they do the other. They tell you don't use drugs and they use drugs. They tell you don't worship money and they worship money. That's how a lot of these Christian churches are, especially these big, expensive ones with the multi-millionaire pastors, having their consciousness seared with a hot iron. So you have it inside of your head and you won't lose it. So stay away from these evil men. The book of 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 13 says, but evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. Because understand, these black pastors, you guys didn't just start off like that. You were convinced. You know by who? You go to seminary school and they teach you the doctrines of devil.
Number 8, Order of the Solar Temple. In Geneva in 1984, the Solar Temple was founded by Luc Jarret, a homeopathic physician, and New Age lecturer Joseph de Membro. The central teaching of the Solar Temple was that the Earth would face some sort of apocalyptic event in the mid-1990s, and to prepare for this event, members believed it was necessary to enter a higher spiritual plane. As part of this process, 53 members of the Solar Temple were murdered or committed suicide in Canada and Switzerland on October 4th and 5th, 1994, and the buildings in which they died were set on fire. The following year, another 16 bodies were found in the French Alps, also buried in a similar ritual. According to the LA Times, each body had at least one bullet wound, and at the crime scene, investigators found vials of toxic drugs and sedatives.
International Chivalric Organization of the Solar Tradition, or simply the Solar Temple, is a cult and religious sect that claims to be based upon the ideals of the Knights Templar. OTS was founded by Joseph de Membro and Luc Jarret in 1984 in Geneva as l'Ordre International Chivalresque de Tradition Solaire, and later it was renamed Ordre du Temple Solar. Some historians allege that the Solar Temple was founded by the French author Jacques Brière, who established a sovereign order of the Solar Temple in 1952. In 1968, a schematic order was renamed the Renewed Order of the Solar Temple under the leadership of the French right-wing political activist Julien Origas.
So here, the Order of the Solar Temple had the same ideas as the Knights Templar. Now, what's the Knights Templar? Well, it was an organization that was founded in 1118, and it was supposed to be a Catholic military order. But what a lot of you guys don't know is that the Knights Templar were closely tied to the Christian Crusades. Do you know who the Christian Crusades tortured, tormented, killed to turn them into Christians? Jews. The Jews that were in Spain and Portugal. We were tortured, killed, and when we decided that we did not want to become Christians, they took our children, gave them to white, so-called Christians, godparents, and they raised our children to be slaves, and they kicked us out of Portugal and sent us to the west coast of Africa. We were sent to the west coast of Africa. But understand this thing, folks, as we review these different cults, understand that these cults control the minds and the hearts of the people. The Lord even said that we would have itching ears to listen to the rhetoric of these cults and whatever it is that they had to say. As a matter of fact, we can get that in the book of 2 Timothy chapter 4. Read.
The book of 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 1. I charge thee therefore before Yahweh and the Lord Hamashiach, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables.
And that's what we've seen with these cults, these people. And by the way, they were probably Israelites, Negroes, black amongst you, who turned away from sound doctrine. Number 3 here says, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. Right now, you Christian churches, you Christians that like to hear what? That you don't have to obey the law when if you go against the law, you're committing a sin. That's in the same Bible that you read, folks. That's what you would call a strange religion. So you mean I shouldn't do what's in these Bibles that we carry into the church, that we open up and a lot of us pretend to read and then close the Bible, but you actually don't read it? That's why you don't believe it? That's a strange religion. That sounds like a cult. But after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers. That's why a lot of times you hear a lot of you niggas say what? My pastor said. My pastor said. No Israelite better ever fix his mouth to say what his elder said. My elder said. My bishop said. No. It's only so saith the Lord. That's it. We only listen to the Lord.
Number 7. Rajneesh or Osho cult. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, also known as Osho, began a spiritual movement in 1970, which was an odd mix of capitalism, meditation, and open sexuality. Osho arrived in America from India and set up a commune in Oregon. His followers tried to take over the Wasco County government by poisoning the entire town, contaminating salad bars in local restaurants. Over 750 people fell ill and 45 were hospitalized. Though Osho was the supposed spiritual guru behind the cult, the lady in the driver's seat was Ma Anand Sheela, an Indian-born American-Swiss spokesperson of the Rajneesh movement who was eventually convicted of multiple attempted murders. The crazy story was aired on Netflix recently in a 6-part documentary called Wild Wild Country that shocked viewers with tales of poison and paranoia.
The Rajneesh movement are people inspired by the Indian mystic Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, born 1931 to 1990. Also known as Osho, particularly initiated disciples who are referred to as neo-sannyasin. This cult really goes into the sexual things. For one, they're following this guy that's clearly basing his teachings off of a fake religion, which is Hinduism, which would have to do with like spiritual stuff and nature, blah, 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 which is against the Most High. There's only one God. It's the Most High. This man, he was very pro like open sexuality or whatever. So of course a bunch of Edomites jumped on board. Like these cults it's always for the cult leader's best interest so that they can have like sex with all sorts of different people and to encourage people to have sex with all different sorts of people. Like, I'm sorry, that's very disgusting. The Most High does not want us to be whores nor whoremonger. You're just dirtying yourself, turning yourself into chewed gum, and filling yourself with evil lust spirits.
So you see, these weirdos call themselves seekers of truth. But look at what their truth was. To go to Wasco City and poisoned the inhabitants. 750 people got sick. You have to be careful of these diverse and strange doctrines. And we're going to get that in the book of Hebrews chapter 13, verse 9.
The book of Hebrews chapter 13, verse 9. Be not carried about with diverse and strange doctrines, for it is a good thing that the hearts be established with grace, not with meats which have not profited them that have been occupied therein.
So you see what the word is saying? Be not carried about with diverse and strange doctrines. Their diverse and strange doctrines call for open, nasty sex and killing people. That goes against the commandments. And by the way, let's take a look at these commandments again. So that means if you're going against this, you're a diverse and strange doctrine, because you guys try to kill millions of people by contaminating the water. Think about the book of Mark, chapter 10, verse 19. Thou knowest the commandments, do not commit adultery and do not kill.
Number 6, the Children of God. In 1968, David Berg started the Children of God, a cult that was described in an article for The Guardian as devoting themselves to the worship of Jesus Christ and promiscuous sex. Berg announced that female members should have sex with men so as to convert them. He named this practice flirty fishing. In his 1979 annual report, he stated that his FFers, or flirty fishers, had witnessed to over 250,000 souls, loved over 25,000 of them, and won about 19,000 to the Lord. This promiscuous practice was eventually stopped due to AIDS-related concerns. It was religious prostitution. Berg's daughter Deborah said, I had to quit looking at the man as my father, but as the leader of a worldwide movement that was destroying lives. David Berg, who was also known as Moses David, is now living in seclusion, but still communicates to his converts through letter writing.
The Children of God began in the United States in the late 1960s. Its founder, David Berg, told members that God was love, and love was sex, so there should be no limits, regardless of age or relationship. It actively encouraged sexual activities among minors as young as 2 or 3 years old. As you can see, this demonic, this horrible cult is saying that you can have sex with little kids. It's saying that you can have sex with anybody, no matter what the relationship. So he's saying you can commit all kinds of adultery.
Not only can you not be a fornicator or a rapist, but you can't be an adulterer. You can't be having sex with married women or committing sexual immorality. And we're going to get that in the book of Mark, chapter 10, verse 19. Thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. You see, folks, adulterers and fornicators are going into the lake of fire. You're going into the lake of fire.
Number 5, the Manson family. Charles Manson is best known for being a serial killer, but when you look at cults online, his name consistently comes up. This is because in 1967, he organized a group of followers under the name the Manson Family. Though not exactly a religious cult, the so-called Manson family incorporated ideas from Scientology, Satanism, and various New Age ideologies. Manson preached to his devotees that the United States was on the brink of an apocalyptic race war known as Helter Skelter, named after the Beatles song. On August 1969, Manson ordered his followers to carry out a twin set of killings, including that of film director Roman Polanski's pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, and supermarket executive Leno LaBianca. Manson's followers committed a series of 9 murders at 4 locations in July and August 1969. In 1971, he was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder for the deaths of 7 people. Manson served out his life sentence at California State Prison in Corcoran and died at age 83 in 2017.
The group consisted of approximately 100 followers who lived an unconventional lifestyle with habitual use of hallucinogenic drugs such as LSD. Most were young women from middle-class backgrounds, many of whom were radicalized by Manson's teachings and drawn by hippie culture and communal living. Soon after release from prison in 1967, Manson, who had been institutionalized or incarcerated for more than half of his life, began attracting acolytes in the San Francisco area. They gradually moved to a rundown ranch called in Los Angeles County. The ranch burned down during a Southern California wildfire in September of 1970. According to group member Susan Atkins, the members of the family were convinced that Manson was a manifestation of Jesus Christ and believed in his prophecies concerning an imminent apocalyptic race war.
And you see, not only did this guy convince his people to go kill, they were convinced that he was Jesus Christ himself. Yahusha said, many will come in my name. And we're going to get that in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 5. Read.
The book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
He deceived 100 people and convinced them to go kill. That's against the law in every country. So our commandments are not strange because you follow our commandments, folks. Because if you don't, you get to go to prison just like he did when he died in Corcoran, California State Prison. Right here in the book of Mark, chapter 10, verse 19, thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. Didn't they kill? They went on a killing spree. And that's how come they're all dying in prison.
Number 4, the Faizrahmanist Movement. A self-proclaimed prophet had a vision from God. He would build an Islamic caliphate under the Russian city of Kazan. The digging began in the early 2000s, and 70 followers soon moved into an 8-level subterranean labyrinth of cramped cells with no light, heat, or ventilation. It wasn't until 2012 that Russian police discovered the underground Islamic sect. According to British newspaper The Guardian, Faizrahmanist Movement, who at the time was 83 years old, had his followers living in a series of dirty, damp cells on 8 different levels underneath a shabby house. Aged between 1 and 17, the children rarely saw the light of day and had never left the property, been to school, or seen a doctor. Sadarov, who declared himself a prophet in contradiction to the principles of Islam, was charged with negligence, said Irina Petrova, a deputy prosecutor in the provincial capital of Kazan.
The Faizrahmanist movement, known in the media as the Catacomb sect, is a sect of Islam based in Tatarstan in Russia. The sect is considered illegitimate by mainstream Russian Muslim clergy because Orthodox Islam holds that there are no prophets after Muhammad.
So you see where it says even the Russian Muslim clergy said that there are no prophets after Muhammad, even though Muhammad wasn't a prophet. Let's be clear about that. The Lord said there's going to be many false prophets. And we're going to get that in the book of 1 John chapter 4, verse 1. Read.
The book of 1 John chapter 4, verse 1. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world.
You see, the Lord said that the false prophets have gone out into the world. And he's telling you, believe not every spirit. This guy right here built subterranean dungeon underneath this house. And I'm actually quite surprised the house didn't collapse. That's why the Lord says, try the spirits whether they are of God. This man was not of God. This man lied to convince them to go down here and live under. Strange behavior. Newsflash. No Israelites are forcing you to live underground, folks.
Number 3, the Branch Davidians. In 1981, David Koresh, born Vernon Wayne Howell, went to Waco, Texas to join the Branch Davidians, and by 1990 had become their leader. The 1993 standoff between federal agents and the Branch Davidians outside Waco, Texas is one of the most well-known cult stories, and it dominated news headlines for months. The FBI was attempting to arrest leader David Koresh and so raided the group's 77-acre complex when they began to exchange heavy gunfire at the site. 4 agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and 6 Branch Davidians were killed in the firefight. What happened next was one of the most televised cult standoffs in history. For 51 days, Koresh and most of his followers refused to leave the compound. FBI negotiators tried to reason with Koresh, but to no avail. The standoff ended when agents in armored vehicles raided the building, but a fire, which witnesses claim Koresh said himself, broke out and engulfed the complex. Only 9 people inside survived. Critics called what happened at Waco a massacre. The siege left 75 people dead, many of whom were children.
You've looked to me to be your leader, to guide you on this journey. Follow, just like you. God has instructed me to stay here and wait for his sign. This is our time to prove through suffering that we are worthy of the miracle that's to come. The kingdom of heaven is coming. I promise you.
The Branch Davidians, or the General Association of Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventists, are a religious cult founded in 1955 by Benjamin Roden. They regarded themselves as a continuation of the General Association of Davidian Seventh-day Adventists established by Victor Houteff in 1935. Houteff, a Bulgarian immigrant and a Seventh-day Adventist, wrote a series of tracts entitled The Shepherd's Rod, which called for the reform of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. After his ideas were rejected by Adventist leaders, Houteff and his followers founded the Davidians and settled on a tract of land on the western outskirts of Waco, Texas, United States, where they built a compound called the Mount Carmel Center and began preparing for the Second Coming. After Houteff's death in 1955, his wife Florence usurped Davidian leadership. That same year, Roden, a former follower of Houteff who called himself the Branch, after the Branch referred to it in the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 1, called for Davidians to come to Mount Carmel Center to hear his message. This was the beginning of the group that would be popularly known as the Branch Davidians. This cult, well, for one, the cult leader that caused this great loss of life was David Koresh. And he believed himself, for one, to actually be the Lamb, as referenced in Revelation chapter 5, verse 2. While the Lamb is actually Hamashiach, not some rando, but he thought that the Lamb, which was him, would come before Hamashiach and pave the way for his second coming. He was a very deluded man who was he was one of the Antichrist, just like this entire sect. This is a Christian sect, led by many Antichrists giving the wrong messages. This man went around having sex with other members' wives, which that's, for one, committing adultery. You're now allowing adultery to happen not only from him, the wife, and the husband, because the husband would still be his wife. And you're committing whoredom, and you're a whoremonger. And there's even suggestions that he was going after children among the cult, which again is wrong.
In these last days, don't let yourself be tricked by people like him who claim themselves to be biblical figures when they really are not.
This was one of the most deadliest cults. And notice that they're associated with the Seventh-day Adventist. You guys are a cult within yourselves. You're a huge, unbelievable cult with misplaced doctrine. But you see, this guy, David Koresh, believed himself to be the Lamb. Christ said, many will come in my name. And we're going to get that in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And this guy that called himself Christ was having sex with little girls and other people's wives. This guy right here that called himself Christ killed dozens upon dozens upon dozens of people. The book of 1 John chapter 4, verse 1. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. This man was a false prophet.
Number 2, Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate was an American UFO religious cult based in San Diego, California. It was founded in the early 1970s by Marshall Applewhite, a Texas music teacher, and Bonnie Nettles, a nurse. They met during a stay in a psychiatric institution and renamed themselves Bo and Peep. Heaven's Gate was the first well-known cult of the internet era, using this new technology to share their beliefs and recruit followers online. In March 1997, 39 members, including Applewhite, wearing black tracksuits and sneakers, ate applesauce laced with barbiturates and washed it down with vodka. They then laid down with bags over their heads, wearing purple shrouds. They died believing their bodies would be transported to a UFO traveling in the tail of the Hale-Bopp comet. A strange and dangerous story, Heaven's Gate is still one of the most notorious cults of the 20th century.
Heaven's Gate was an American new religious movement, often described as a cult. It was founded in 1974 and led by Bonnie Nettles, 1927 to 1985, and Marshall Applewhite, 1931 to 1997. Known within the movement as Ty and Doe, respectively, Nettles and Applewhite first met in 1972 and went on a journey of spiritual discovery, identifying themselves as the two witnesses of revelation, attracting a following of several hundred people in the mid-1970s. In 1976, the group stopped recruiting and instituted a monastic lifestyle. Scholars have described the theology of Heaven's Gate as a mixture of Christian militarism, New Age, and ufology, and as such, it has been characterized as a UFO religion. The central belief of the group was that followers could transform themselves into immortal extraterrestrial beings by rejecting their human nature, and they would ascend to heaven, referred to as the next level or the evolutionary level of human. Above human, the death of Nettles to cancer in 1985 challenged the group's views on ascension, where they originally believed that they would ascend to heaven while alive aboard a UFO, later coming to believe that the body was merely a container or vehicle for the soul, and that the consciousness would be transferred to new next-level bodies upon death. So these crazy people believe that some aliens were going to come by on a UFO trailing behind like some comets, apparently. It's kind of crazy, the stuff that you could get people to believe. This is utterly ridiculous. It has nothing to do with the Bible. Bible speaks nothing about aliens from outer space. They don't exist.
So you see, we have an example of a diverse and strange doctrine where these people took barbiturates. March of 1997, deputies of the San Diego County Sheriff's Department discovered bodies of 39 active members of the group. That means they killed themselves, including the leader, Applewhite, in a house in the San Diego suburb of Rancho Santa Fe. The Lord is sending strong delusion, not only to take out you heathens, but as for you Israelites, to weed you out. And we're going to get that in the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 11. Read.
2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 11. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they shall believe a lie.
And what's their lie? Hale-Bobba's coming to save you. Hale-Bopp. The Lord sent this strong delusion. And what was their crime? Let's read what their crime was against the Lord. Thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. There's a lot of death going on here. Do you know that the Israelites are not allowed to kill? Did you know that? It's funny. It seems like your cults allow you to kill people. Why? Because in Christianity, you say that the law is dead. Right here, laws, statutes, and commandments, it says thou shalt not kill. According to you guys, you can kill. As a matter of fact, the largest denomination in prison are Christians.
So where do we go from here? Number 1 is where we go to the People's Temple Agricultural Project, better known as Jonestown, a remote settlement established by the People's Temple, an American cult under the leadership of Reverend Jim Jones in North Guyana. His former followers report that the leader encouraged physical fighting, spying, and the use of fear. At its peak, the temple had connections with many left-wing political figures and boasted 20,000 members, though it's hard to verify the actual numbers. There's a great deal to be said about this cult, but it's without a doubt best known for the events of November 18, 1978, when 918 people died in a mass murder and suicide pact. The mass suicide and killings at Jonestown resulted in the greatest single loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act prior to the September 11th terrorist attacks. Of the nearly 1,000 church members who began the day in Jonestown, only 33 survived to see the next day. Without a doubt, this makes the People's Temple Agricultural Project the deadliest cult on our list.
People's Temple, religious community led by Jim Jones from 1931 to 1978. That came to international attention after some 900 of its members died at their compound, Jonestown, in Guyana, in a massive attack of murder-suicide on November 18, 1978. Jones began the People's Temple informally in the 1950s as an independent congregation in Indianapolis. He was inspired by the ideal of a just society that would overcome the evils of racism and poverty. Although Jones was white, he attracted mostly African Americans to the group with his vision of an integrated congregation. In the 1960s, the People's Temple affiliated with the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and 4 years later, Jones was ordained. In 1965, he warned of a nuclear holocaust and led the movement to Ukiah, California, where its members became active in both Protestant and ecumenical circles and state politics. Branch congregations opened in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and the agricultural settlement Jonestown was founded in 1974. This man, probably one of the most evil people on this list, in my opinion. Not only did he kill the most, he also drew in mostly Israelites. Through his belief, he was very anti, at least publicly, the Ku Klux Klan, racism. He wanted the churches to be integrated. He believed in socialism, which means that everyone will be, socialism and communism makes it where you'll be equal in society. But so that drew in a lot of wayward Israelites into his cult. But this man, for one, he claimed he didn't even believe in the Bible. He was an agnostic and an atheist. He called the Bible a paper idol. He just basically used it, like, since many Israelites were in Christianity, he just used the Bible to control people and fool people.
And you see, it was really mainly because of the murder by Jim Jones' kill squad that he called the Red Brigade. They killed Congressman Ryan in November of 1978. And so he knew that the jig was up. And so he orchestrated and forced this mass suicide of so many of our people, the true children of Israel, the Israelites, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Lord said, don't be given to wine. And what is wine? Wine is lies and hypocrisy. Also, the video spoke about Jim Jones would have people spying on each other, fighting each other. You see, Israelites cannot be violent. The Lord doesn't want us to be brawlers. As a matter of fact, let's get that in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 3.
The book of 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 3. Not given to wine, nor striker, not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous.
So the Lord says not given to wine. This is not just literally getting drunk, but opening yourself up to hypocrisy and lie. No striker. So we can't be hating people, harming people. Not greedy of filthy lucre, that's dirty money. What you'll do for money, if it's dirty, the Lord said right here, don't be greedy of dirty money, but patient. The Lord says to be patient. Watch this. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Yahweh Bahashem Hamashiach Yahweh. Not covetous. Don't want what you don't have. You know who teaches that? Esau. You see, even though this man, Jim Jones, said that he didn't believe in the Bible, they still looked at him as a religious leader. Our people look at you as their religious leader. Come out of these religions, folks. It's about your nationality. It's about obeying the law, statutes, and commandments. Because when you're a religion, you get to pick and choose what you want to do. Well, I want to tell you what the Lord is going to do to those pastors. Let me get the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2, verse 8. Read.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 2, verse 8. The priest said not, where is the Lord? And they that handle the law knew me not. The pastors also transgressed against me. And the prophets prophesied by Baal, and walked after things that do not profit.
Because see, if you're not walking after the Lord, you're clearly walking after this cult Baal. The priest said not, where is the Lord? And they that handle the law knew me not. The priests are the ones that are supposed to handle the law. The pastors also transgressed against me. That's you Christian pastors who teach what? Don't obey the law, statutes, and commandments. You know the Lord calls you brutish, and we can get that in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verse 21. Read.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verse 21. For the pastors are become brutish, and have not sought the Lord. Therefore they shall not prosper, and all their flocks shall be scattered.
See, that's you people that are inside those Christian churches. You see what the Lord is saying? Your pastor is going to cause you to be scattered. Look at what the Lord promises you. For the pastors have become brutish and have not sought the Lord. Why? Because they believe themselves to be the Lord. They only know just enough to get you in. You know what they are? These guys are motivational speakers, but they're not men of God. And by the way, I don't care how big your mansion is, TDJ, Joel Osteen, Creflo Dollar, Juanita Bynum, and the rest of you people. Do you know that these people collectively have made $800 billion in tithes and offerings?
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 12, verse 10. Many pastors have destroyed my vineyard. They have trodden my portion underfoot. They have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness.
Look at what the Lord said. He said that you trodden down his portion. What do you think his portion is? The children of Israel, the seed of Jacob. We are his portion. As a matter of fact, give me the precept on the Lord's portion.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32, verse 9. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance.
Jacob is the lot of his inheritance, not you. But understand this thing though, for you pastors, the Lord has a promise to you and it's not good. And we can get that in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 1. Read.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 1. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith the Lord. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of Israel against the pastors that feed my people, ye have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evils of your doings, saith the Lord.
You see what the Lord said? He said, I will visit upon you the evil of the doings, saith the Lord. So enjoy your love offering. Enjoy your Learjets. Enjoy misusing the book of Malachi. Will a man rob God? While you're busy robbing your people. Enjoy leading the deaf, dumb, and blind down the ravine, because you don't have to believe man. Folks, I want you to listen. Do not ever believe man. Only believe the word of the Most High God. We're going to talk about the biggest cult there is in the world. So let's go ahead and put the Christian church on trial right now. The Christians do not keep the commandments, whereas the Israelites keep the commandment. The Christians obey only the Apostle Paul. Why? Because it's only in the epistles of Paul. You know why Paul was careful about what he wrote? Because the Romans looked at the writing. And if he said anything that would get him in trouble, he would be killed. So he was careful about what he wrote. And he wanted it to be clear that we no longer have to do animal sacrifices as described in the book of Hebrews.
8. Above when he said, sacrifice and offering and burnt offerings and offering for sin thou wouldest not, neither hadst pleasure therein, which are offered by the law.
Because we're now under the grace of Yahweh. But the Christians, they find scriptures that say law is dead, and they don't tell you the truth, that only the law of sacrifice is dead, not the laws are dead. They say the law is dead, the law of sacrifice. They use the death of Christ to justify their
disobedience
to the Most High God. The Israelites follow Christ. The Christians refuse to keep the Lord's laws, statutes, and commandments. The Israelites read the entire Bible. The Christians copycat and obey the doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church. The Israelites keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. You say, Christian, according to Paul in the book of Romans, chapter 10, verse 4, for Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. But watch this. It said the end of the law, not the end of the laws. You have ceremonial law, civil law, dietary laws, sacrificial laws, and moral laws. Well, guess what's dead? The sacrificial laws. All the other laws still exist. So while you busy looking at that, you'll say to yourself, the law is dead. I can do whatever I want. But look at what the Lord says. The book of John, chapter 14, verse 15. If ye love me, keep my commandments. You know what the Lord tells you to do? In the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 13, he says, till I come, give attendance to reading. You have to read, folks. Stop taking the advice or the word from man and read. He says, till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, someone explaining what you're reading, to doctrine. Whose doctrine? Not doctrine of man, folks. Doctrine of the Most High God. Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee. The Bible is inspired by the Most High God. We will get that in the book of 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16. All scripture is given by the inspiration of Yahweh and is profitable for doctrine. There's that word again. For reproof, for correction, and for instruction in righteousness. That reproof means checking you, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. So today, we just went over the truth about cults. And we identified several cults, including the Catholics and Christianity. But you know what's clear? The Israelites are not cults. We obey the laws, statutes, and commandments. You can actually find our laws, statutes, and commandments strewn throughout penal codes, even here in America. Thou shalt not kill. That's a 187. That's murder. You can't kill, or you go to prison for murder. You can't steal. You go to jail. If you go to court and you lie, there shall not bear false witness, saying something, a lie about someone else, and then they get in trouble for it. You get found out in court, guess what? Boom! You go to jail. Lie to an FBI agent, that is a felony. So you can't lie. You see, our commandments are all over the place. So we're the norm, and the rest of you are cults. And with that, shalom.
Shalom.
Hello.